On this episode of ResiWeek, ISE moves to May, the Z-Wave Alliance Trend Report, and QMotion rebrands to Legrand. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 311, at another hub.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Chief, the global leader in commercial AV mounting solutions, and by Vadio, a leading manufacturer of professional PTZ cameras, Pro AV solutions, and UCC integration systems.
Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Mr. Joe Whitaker. He's the CEO of Thoughtful Integrations. How you doing, Joseph?
Very good. Excited about the new year and the new things coming up for a good old 2022. Yeah,
it's fantastic. We're 16 days in, 17 days in, something like that. Then we have Alex Capisolantro. He is the founder of Josh AI. How you doing, Alex?
Doing great. It's always good to be here and excited to chat with you both.
Thank you both for joining us. We're going to kick this off with a story that comes to us from AVNation.tv. Middle of last week, Mr. Mike Blackman, who is the head of ISE, announced a 3-month postponement from the beginning of February to May 10th through the 10th through the 13th, still in Barcelona, still at the Fira. Essentially, we've got, if you listen to AV Week from this past week, Tim had a wonderful conversation with Mike as well as with Dave Labuskis from Avixa to talk about the postponement and what led to that and what kind of resulted from it. Long and short, as I'm sure you can imagine, getting into Barcelona currently is a little bit in flux. They've got new regulations coming in the 1st of February. So if you were in the country on the 31st, there's one level of restrictions. If you landed on the 1st of February, another set of restrictions. Mike went on to mention that anyone attending from China was going to have a 2-week minimum hotel quarantine upon their arrival back home. So there was a lot of stuff going on. They held some polls. They had a lot of meetings with some of their main stakeholders to determine this and result in this. So go listen to that interview for sure if you haven't yet. Joe, I want to start with you on this. I wasn't necessarily expecting this to happen, but I'm not at all surprised that it did. What do you think that this push is going to do to the attendance of the show? They have not yet had a true ISE event in Barcelona. The last true or full ISE was 2020, back in Amsterdam. And again, that was the first show that really had dropouts, shall we say. What is the move going to do for the European aspect going to this show, as well as the minor portion that typically attends from North America?
I don't know if it's just the luck of if it's not broke, don't fix it, or if it's if you really look at it, this is totally, I expected it, right? Because we know when the pandemic first hit Barcelona, Spain itself was one of the hardest hit. They've got pandemic paranoia way worse than we have in the U.S. just because of what happened to Spain as a whole. So shocking. It was shocking that it was even advertised that it was going to happen at the normal dates to me. The move, legitimately on the business side makes a lot of sense because, as we know for ISE in the past, CEDIA Expo is always the barometer, right? What does attendance look like at Expo for a certain year going into the world's biggest custom electronics show? What does that look like? Because usually a lot more on this side of the ocean go to that one than vice versa, than who's over there coming over to the CEDIA show. So it's always a good barometer, and just by not necessarily what was kind of put in motion by the manufacturers, but by basic attendance and excitement of CEDIA, of Expo, it was easy to gauge and ask manufacturers, okay, this is what you did for CEDIA. What are you going to do at ISE? Okay, should we totally cancel or should we move it? May is not a bad time. I mean, if you look at it, which I think somebody's already talked about, if you look at the the COVID numbers year over year, May and June are your lowest times of spreading or actually contracting or being very sick from it, to the point of getting all the crap inside your lungs. It's the safest time to have something during the pandemic. So, we'll see. That's all I can leave it with. Is like, we'll see. Do I think it's a good idea? Kind of, yeah, I do. Do I think trade shows as a whole are over? Honestly, I don't. I was leaning that way. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's a good point. Alex, we just got through CES, and that was I'll call it a moderate success. The people that went seemed to absolutely enjoy it. There was still a large proponent of companies that didn't show, press that didn't attend, people that felt it was not the right time, without getting into the fun political aspect of that. Seeing ISE postpone, knowing that the building show is coming up in February, we've got now ISE in May, and then we have Infocom in Las Vegas in June, and then we have Expo in September. Does the postponement and maybe the expectation of, or the attendance of the International Builder Show, is that going to be the barometer for how the summer and the summer slate of shows goes?
I'll start off by just preferencing none of us are doctors. None of us, study this stuff for a living. And, my opinions are nothing more than just that. I do try to be, well-read and know what's going on, but we're trying to predict the future. It's going to be tough. I will say I was not a fan of CES happening in the middle of Omicron outbreak. Although the symptoms weren't as bad, it's been the most contagious form of COVID we've had. And I just feel like that was not the right time. Super happy that ISE moved. I think it was smart. I think Joe brings up a good point. May, June tends to be really the best time for events. We look back to last year, and I think that would have worked out well. Moving forward, I'm personally planning on going to the KBIS and Builder Show in Orlando. That's coming up February 8th through 10. I'm hopeful that it's a safe show. I'm speaking on a number of panels. Everyone feels very optimistic. I feel like it's going to be a pretty good show. When I think about ISE moving to May, I think it's going to be fantastic. I'll tell you, I don't dislike Amsterdam in February, but I certainly don't love it. It's rainy, it's cold, it's a bit of a troubling place. Barcelona in May is going to be like a vacation. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think, my best guess is that COVID's going to be in a good place. So I think we're going to see from the KBIS show all the way through ISE and Infocom, I think it's going to be pretty good. By the time we get into CEDIA timeframe, I don't know. It's pushed back a month later than usual this year. It's going to be October instead of September. Last year, that's when things started getting bad again. I think we just have to wait and see. My opinion is if COVID isn't having a new crazy variant that's making things, ridiculous, we want to be at shows, we want to be seeing new product, we want to be meeting. And I think we've learned that there are ways we can do this safely, but it just depends what's going on during the time. And so I would say flip a coin on whether or not Expo is going to make sense now, but let's revisit, July, August timeframe, and I think we'll know a lot more by then.
Hey, thanks for watching the first segment of this week's episode. To catch the entire show, please click the link below or visit AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv.